Alright, welcome back to WMMA now with your host Chuck Stevenson, coming at you with a UFC fight preview. So we're going to UFC 251 in Abu Dhabi. We're going to the strawweight division. Paige 12-gauge VanZant taking on Amanda Ribas. Now taking a look at the stats here. VanZant coming in 8-4, Ribas coming in 9-1. VanZant coming off a win over Rachel Ostovich about a year and a half ago. Before that was a loss to Jessica Rose Clark 2.5 years ago. So a lot of intermittent time in between VanZant's fights, mostly due to breaking and re-breaking the same arm. Ribas on a nice 4-fight win streak, 3 of those within the UFC over Emily Whitmire, then Mackenzie Dern, and then most recently Randa Marcos about 4 months ago. They are the same age, 26 years old, same height, 5 feet 4 inches, 163 centimeters tall. Ribas does have 1 inch of reach on VanZant, 66 inches, 168 centimeters to VanZant, 65 inches, 165 centimeters. So let's talk about these two fighters. You know, Paige, I feel like she gets a bad rap. And none of it really has to do, or I would say 90% of it has nothing to do with her actual fighting. A lot of the hate she gets has to do with her being like a social media influencer, as it were. A lot of people just dismiss her outright because, you know, she's kind of goofy looking. Well, not goofy looking. She acts goofy on social media, does goofy stuff, her and her husband. And MMA people are, you know, a lot of MMA fans or hardcore fans are like very kind of boring in that way. In that, it's so stupid. But you know what? The stuff she does appeals to way more people than it probably turns off. I mean, I forget how many. So, I think she has like what? 2.5 million Instagram followers or 1.5 million, something like that. It's a ridiculous large number of Instagram followers. And so you can't just dismiss that outright. I feel like if you're going to take down PVZ, you got to look at it from what she does as a fighter. And, you know, a lot of people like to call her a part-time fighter. They say, well, she never fights anymore. She just posts on social media. Well, she doesn't fight a lot because she's been dealing with recurring injuries. If she was healthy, she'd have fought a lot more. I mean, let's see. She's had 3 fights in the last 3.5 years, and that's because of the arm break. It broke again, and then it broke, I think, a 3rd time. So she can't help it that she doesn't fight as much as she would like to, because she would like to fight more. She just has those health problems with the arm. It keeps breaking. The real big problem with Paige is that she's never really evolved as a fighter. In fact, in a lot of ways, she's regressed. Now, one thing she has going for her over a lot of the female fighters in the UFC is that Paige is a natural athlete. And she has cardio for days, really, without even trying. And that is a huge, huge advantage over a lot, and I mean a lot, of female MMA fighters. It really is. It's almost like having a cheat code in a video game, being a natural athlete. Because a lot of the late female fighters aren't natural athletes. A lot of male MMA fighters aren't natural athletes either. But the problem with Paige is that she never took advantage of it by growing her technical skills. She used to be very much a pressure fighter who would get on you. She'd grapple you to death. She'd wrestle you. She would never, ever relent in the pressure game. And she would always be on her opponents. And then ever since leaving Team Alpha Male, she's always real goofy. She's never had a coach to really figure out what the best style for her is, or to keep her on the same style working for her. Instead, she wants to throw goofy strikes. She wants to throw switch kicks, and she got lucky at that time against Rollins. in a fight that she was winning. So VanZant's biggest problem is her inconsistency and her lack of growth as an MMA fighter. I mean, in some ways you would say the success that she has is almost lucky and based more around her just being a natural athlete than it was any skills. Then you have Ribas on the other hand. She's athletic as well, but she has the skills to build on that natural athleticism. She has very solid, strong fundamentals to her striking. She has good judo, good takedowns. She's strong on the ground, good wrestling, good transitions. She transitions well from one area of the fight to the other. Ribas is just a very good, well-rounded fighter in every aspect that you would want a fighter to be well-rounded. A lot of well-rounded fighters are not okay at everything, but good or great at nothing. Ribas is good at pretty much everything. She's just an all-around good fighter on top of being a solid, natural athlete. Now the odds here, I think the current odds are like minus 850 for Ribas and plus 525 for VanZant. I think those odds are a little skewed, and I think that's mostly, a lot of it has to do with how people are betting. That tends to skew the odds even more. And I don't normally talk about odds. I think those odds are just a little bit ridiculous. Now, one thing that should be mentioned is that this is at 125 pounds. Now, VanZant has had a couple of fights there so far, like her last two fights were at 125. Ribas is moving up in weight. But I don't think that's going to be a big problem. I think when it comes down to it, Amanda Ribas is going to be just too much for VanZant. And at the end of the day, VanZant's going to take a loss. It's going to hurt her in her UFC negotiations because she is on her last contract. But I think win or lose, this is probably going to be the last time we see Paige VanZant in the UFC for bad or good. All right, so those are my thoughts on the fight. The pick is going to be Amanda Ribas, probably by decision. Paige isn't, an easy fighter to finish. But either way, we're going with Amanda Ribas to win this fight. Let me know your thoughts on the fight in the comments down below. Of course, if you like the video, give it a like. And what are you waiting for? Subscribe to WMMA Scene Now, the most complete women's mixed martial arts dedicated platform on YouTube. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.